Hi everyone, welcome to the lecture number 36, the first lecture on unemployment. In our last lecture, we discussed about labor mobility. Labor mobility is the mechanism that labor market use to improve the allocation of workers to the farms. In our last lecture, we argued that labor mobility is driven by some fundamental factors like workers want to improve their economic situation and farms want to hire more productive workers. We also discussed about the job turnover. We discussed about the job match and we also discussed about the job turnover and the age earning profile of a worker. In this lecture, we will discuss about the problem of unemployment. We will discuss about different types of unemployment, what are the causes of unemployment and what are the consequences of unemployment. So, why some workers are unemployed? This fundamental question raises some of the thorniest issues in the field of economics. As we have seen, in a competitive equilibrium, it equates the supply of workers with the demand for workers. So, the equilibrium wage, it clears the market and all persons, those who are looking for job, they can find a job at this equilibrium wage rate. However, this implication of equilibrium, the unemployment is widely persist and it is a widespread phenomena in the labor market across the globe. If you look at the statistics, the rate of unemployment in different countries, here is the data. The data is from 2000 to 2023. So, over this 23 years of time, we have taken top 10 economies of the world like US, Japan, India, Great Britain, France, China, Canada, Brazil. You can see the unemployment rate, how it fluctuates over the period of time and it ranges from in 2023, you can see it ranges from more than 2% to 8%. And you can see different structural breaks where the unemployment is high and after that it goes down. Now, you can see 2007-8 is the economic recession. Now, you can see almost all the countries, they have experienced an increase in the unemployment rate. You can see another structural break during 2012-13, the European crisis. The unemployment rate you can see in some of the countries, European countries, it's high. Again, you can see in 2019 to 2020, the impact of COVID-19. So, what we can see is that it is a phenomena, it is a widespread phenomena and it persists across all the countries in the world. So, it is difficult to understand the existence and the persistence of this large pool of unemployed workers in terms of the typical model of supply and demand, unless the farm pay wages that are above the equilibrium level. Now, if we consider that the demand and supply will clear the market at the market clearing wage rate, there is no unemployment. Those who want to get a job, they will get a job. So, in that case, it is very difficult to understand. It may happen that the farms pay wages that are above the equilibrium wage and there is an excess supply of labor. Sometimes it can happen that wages are sticky and cannot be driven down to the equilibrium level which adjusted with the demand and supply. So, it is difficult to understand this existence of large pool of unemployed workers in terms of typical demand and supply model. So, workers are unemployed for many reasons and policymakers usually worry about some type of unemployment than about the other types. There are different types of unemployment. At a time, for instance, many persons are in between jobs. So, they left one job and they are finding another job. So, they have either just quit or been laid off or they have just entered or re-entered the labor market. So, there is a continuous flux in the labor market. It takes time to learn about and locate available job opportunities also. Therefore, even a well functioning market economy where the number of available jobs equals to the number of persons looking for the work will show some unemployment as workers search for job. Many workers seems to be unemployed not because they are in between jobs, but because of a fundamental imbalance between the supply and demand for workers. So, in this lecture we will discuss about how job search activities generate unemployment in a competitive economy and identifies some of the factors that can prevent the market from clearing the unemployment even after job search activities are also counted for. Economists have particularly very resourceful at creating stories of how unemployment arises in a competitive market. And each particular theory can explain certain aspects of unemployment problem in the economy. However, no single theory provides a convincing explanation why unemployment sometimes increase at a large fraction of the workforce and why unemployment targets some group more than the others. So, it is not that everybody is equally affected by the unemployment rate, and why some workers remain unemployed for a very long period of time. So, there is no single theory which can explain that why unemployment is there in the economy. Of course, each theory explains partially that why unemployment is there. So, unemployment can be caused by various factors. It can be structural, it can be cyclical. So, let us discuss some of the common causes that creates unemployment in the economy. First and foremost factor is the economic recession, slowdown of the economy. So, during economic downturns or the recessions, business may cut down this production, which may lead to layoff and job losses in the economy. It again reduces the consumer spending and investment, which also contributes to decrease in the demand for labor. We have seen that demand for labor is a derived demand. It is derived from the product market. So, since there is an economic recession and consumers are having less income and they are having less spending and less investment, which may lead to a decrease in the demand for the labor in the factor market, which results a high unemployment rate. Further, the technological advances may cause unemployment in the economy. As we have seen, automation and technological advancement can lead to job displacement, particularly in the industries where manual labor is being replaced by machines or softwares. It may happen that sometimes technology creates new jobs. It can also render certain skill obsolete, causing unemployment for workers who lack the necessary skill for the new roles in the production process or in the factor market. So, technological advancement plays a significant role in creating unemployment in the economy sometimes. Further, in 21st century, almost all the economies are living in a globalized environment. So, increased international trade and outsourcing can impact the domestic industries, which may lead to job losses in the sectors that face competition from cheaper outsourced labor, overseas labor. So, globalization can also result in shift in the production and employment patterns, causing a structural unemployment in certain regions or industries. Further, mismatch of skills can lead to certain amount of unemployment in the economy. Structural unemployment occurs when there is a mismatch between skills or qualifications of available workers and the requirement of available jobs. So, the rapid changes in the technology and industry demand can leave workers with an outdated skill and making it difficult for them to find a suitable job in the labor market. Further, certain institutional factors also responsible to create certain amount of unemployment in the economy, like minimum wage laws, labor market regulations. So, minimum wage laws and strict labor market regulation can influence employment levels by increasing the cost of hiring and potentially leading to job losses in the labor market. It happens particularly for the low skilled workers or the industries with narrow profit margins. So, institutional factors plays sometimes significant role in having some amount of unemployment in the economy. Further, the demographic structure of the economy plays a significant role in determining unemployment, like population growth, aging population and changes in the workforce participation rate that can impact significantly the labor supply and demand dynamics in the economy, which leads to fluctuation in the unemployment rate. Further, the skill, the human capital, the educational attainment and training plays a significant role in having some amount of unemployment in the economy. Well, limited access to education, vocational training or skill development programs can hinder individuals' ability to secure employment or transition to new roles in the evolving industries. So, workers have to have the training skill updated. Now, in 21st century you can see that the technology advancement is there, we are living in a globalized world. So, the worker has to compete, therefore, he has to upgrade his skill. There is limited access to education and vocational training and the skill development programs that will lead to unemployment in the labor market. So, addressing unemployment often requires a multifaceted approach that combines macroeconomic policies to stimulate economic growth, targeted intervention to the skill mismatches, social safety nets to support the displaced workers during the period of job loss or the transition. So, it requires intervention from different dimensions. Now, when we define unemployment refers to the situation where the individuals who are willing and able to work, but they are unable to find employment despite of actively seeking for it. So, they are available for job, but they are not finding job. So, it is a key economic indicator that reflects the state of the labor market in the economy. There are several types of unemployment. As we have seen, the labor market is in a constant flux. Some workers quit their jobs, other workers are laid off, some firms are cutting back, other firms are expanding. New workers entering to the market after completing their education and other workers they are going out with some retirements. So, at any time therefore, many workers are in between jobs. If workers looking for jobs and the firms looking for workers could find each other immediately, then there would be no unemployment. But it takes time. It does not happen the way it happens in an auction market. There is a lag in the labor market. The adjustment does not happen quickly. So, when we talk about different types of unemployment, one type of unemployment is the frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment is the unemployment, it is the worker is in between jobs. This type of unemployment occurs when individuals are in the process of transitioning between jobs or entering the workforce for the first time. So, it is often temporary and occurs due to the factors like job search, relocation or entry level positions. So, the existence of frictional unemployment does not suggest that there is a fundamental structural problem in the economy, such as imbalance between the number of workers looking for work and the number of jobs available in the market. As a result, the frictional unemployment is not viewed with a very alarming situation by the policymakers. By its very nature, frictional unemployment leads to a short term unemployment spell. However, this frictional unemployment is productive because the search activities of the workers and the farm improves the allocation of the resources in the economy. They keep on searching until and unless they find their next best alternative. The workers, they find their marginal productivity is high. So, there are very easy policy solutions for this reducing this frictional unemployment in the economy, like providing workers with the information about the job openings, providing the farms with the information about the unemployment workers. So, with these kind of informations, it will reduce the unemployment spell of the frictional unemployed workers. Another type of unemployment is structural unemployment. Structural unemployment, mostly it is a kind of skill mismatch. Structural unemployment arises when there is a mismatch between the skills or the location of the available workers and the requirement of location available for the jobs. This can occur due to the technological advancement. This can also occur due to the changes in the consumer demand or shift in the structure of the industry. Sometimes it happens that the economy is going through a structural change, moving from agriculture to industry, industry to service. So, economy is experiencing this structural transformation. Then the factor market also will go through this structural transformation. Workers will move from agriculture to industry, industry to service sector. So, in that process, it requires certain skills. Suppose the number of workers looking for work equals the number of jobs available, and there is no imbalance between the total number being supplied and demanded. So, the structural unemployment can still arise if the kind of persons looking for the work do not fit the job what is there available in the market. So, at any time, some sectors of the economy are growing and other sectors are declining. If the skills were perfectly transferable across the sectors, then the layoff of the workers would be quickly move to the growing sectors. So, workers will move to the sectors where it is growing. However, skill might be the specific to the workers and to the jobs or the industries. So, the layoff workers lack of the qualification needed in the expanding sector, there could be a mismatch. So, the unemployment spell of the displaced workers might last for a long period of time as long as they are unable to require their skill or retool their skills. It will be difficult for them to find a job in those sectors where the skill is required. So, the structural unemployment arises because of a mismatch between the skills that the workers are supplying and the skills that the farms are demanding. So, the policy prescription for this type of structural unemployment, it is very different from the frictional or seasonal unemployment. I will talk about the seasonal unemployment in our subsequent discussions. So, the policy prescriptions are different and it has to be different. The problem is here the skills. The unemployed are stuck with the human capital that is no longer useful. So, to reduce this type of unemployment, the government would have to provide training programs that would inject the displaced workers with the type of skills that are required in the market. Another type of unemployment is cyclical unemployment. This type of unemployment occurs when the economy is there in a downturn. Economy is experiencing some recession, slowdown. So, there could be structural imbalance between the number of workers looking for the jobs and the number of jobs available. Even if the skills were perfectly portable across the sectors. So, there could be some amount of structural unemployment. So, this imbalance may arise because of the economy has moved into a recession. Even though there is the skill matching is there, but there is some amount of structural imbalance is there. Now, in a recession, farms require a smaller workforce to satisfy the shrinking consumers' demand, and employers lay off many workers, which may generate some kind of cyclical unemployment in the economy. So, cyclical unemployment is related to the fluctuations in the business cycle. During economic downturn or recession, the demand for goods and services decreases. As a result, the production of goods and services declines, which leads to some kind of layoffs and job losses in the labor market. As economy improves, the cyclical unemployment typically decreases. So, there is an excess supply of workers when there is a recession, and market does not clear because the wage is sticky. The wage is not going to decline and cannot adjust downturn. If we go with the basic market demand and supply model, then it should have been happened that if when there is an excess supply of workers, the wages should come down, so the employment will go up. That does not happen smoothly in a labor market because the wages are sticky. Once the wages goes up, it is very difficult to come down because there are certain factors which influence this sticky wage theory. We have already seen that union mandate wages increases or the government imposed minimum wages that introduce rigidity in the wages. That prevents the market clearing. So, economists have developed a number of models that can generate this sticky wage theory and unemployment even in absence of minimum wage. So, even if there is these institutional barriers are not there, still the wage is sticky in the short run. So, the policy prescription for this cyclical unemployment have little to do with helping the workers to find jobs or with retooling workers' skill. To reduce this type of unemployment, the government will have to stimulate the aggregate demand in the economy, which will re-establish the market equilibrium at the sticky wage level. Another type of unemployment is seasonal unemployment. Workers find unemployed at a particular season of the year. Seasonal unemployment occurs when the individuals are temporarily out of work due to the seasonal fluctuations in the demand for certain industries or occupations. For example, the agricultural workers may experience unemployment during the off seasons. So, the spell of seasonal unemployment are usually very predictable. We can predict that at certain point of time these workers are going to be unemployed. So, as a result, seasonal unemployment like frictional unemployment is not what unemployment problem is about. After all, most of the unemployed workers will return to their former employer or once the employment season starts. So, it has been observed that this high level of unemployment can have significant social and economic consequences, which includes the reduced consumer spending, lowering the standard of living, and it increases the poverty and it may create certain social unrest in the economy. Therefore, governments and policy makers often implement various strategies like monetary policy, fiscal policy, job training programs in the form of active labor market policies. Sometimes they go for unemployment benefits to mitigate this negative effect of unemployment and to stimulate job creation in the economy. We can see that as I have discussed, there is a continuous flux in the labor market. The flow happens between employed and unemployed. So, a fraction of the labor force they are employed and a certain fraction of the labor force, they are unemployed. Let us say at any point of time, some of the unemployed workers, they can find job, so they can move to this side, and some of the workers, those who are employed, they may lose job, they can move to this side, they can become unemployed. So, someone is employed, he can become unemployed, someone is unemployed, he can become employed. Let us say the probability of becoming unemployed is L, and the total number of unemployed will be L multiplied by E, the fraction of employed population. And let us say the probability of being unemployed is H. So, at a point of time, we can estimate the number of people, those who move from unemployed to employed, could be H into U, the probability becoming employed multiplied by the total number of unemployed. The flow of workers across jobs and in and out of the labor market generates some amount of unemployment. So, it is easy to calculate the steady state rate of unemployment. The steady state of unemployment rate is the unemployment rate that will be observed in a long run in the economy because of these labor flows from employed to unemployed and unemployed to employed. So, to understand the things in a very simple way, let us take the example of these two workers, that a worker can be either employed or unemployed. In reality, some persons also will be in the non-market sector, but we will ignore initially the non-market sectors to simplify the presentation, the discussion here. So, when we talk about we can estimate this steady state rate of unemployment, the steady state rate of unemployment in the long run will be L multiplied by E equals to H multiplied by U. We have seen that there is a constant flow between this employed to unemployed and unemployed to employed, it happens. Now, the labor force consists of the total employed plus the total unemployed. Now, if we replace these values here in this equation, now we can get that this L whole into labor force minus unemployed equals to H into unemployed. So, the steady state rate of unemployment we can estimate is nothing but that the unemployment rate is nothing but the total number of unemployed divided by the total labor force equals to L by L plus H. So, this is the steady state rate of unemployment. This steady state rate of unemployment sometimes called as the natural rate of unemployment, we will discuss about it. So, it is clear that the steady state rate of unemployment is determined by the transition probability between the employment and unemployment. So, the policies designed to reduce this steady state of unemployment must alter either or both of these probabilities. Either you can increase the probability that unemployed should then go to employed, or you can reduce the probability that the employed should become unemployed. Let us give an example. Suppose the probability that employed workers lose their job in any given month, let us say it is 0.01. It implies that the average job lasts for 100 months. Suppose let us take the probability that unemployed workers find work in any given month is 0.10, which implies that the average unemployment spell lasts for 10 months only. So, the steady state rate of unemployment in the economy is 9.1%. We have calculated it just like 0.01 divided by 0.01 plus 0.10. So, the steady state rate of unemployment is estimated in this case is 9.1%. So, the example we discussed shows that the unemployment rate is smaller when the jobs are more stable and larger when the unemployment spell lasts for a long period of time. We can say in a different word that the two key factors determine the unemployment rate. One is the incidence of unemployment, that is the likelihood that an employed worker loses his job, and the duration of unemployment spell, which is equals to 1 by h. So, the steady state rate of unemployment which we derived in the equation is sometimes called as the natural rate of unemployment. The unemployment has several consequences within the labor market. It affects both workers as well as the employers. Let us discuss some of the key consequences of this labor market. First and foremost consequence is that it decreases the wages. High level of unemployment can lead to downward pressure on the wages as the employers have a large pool of job seekers. Now, this can result in reducing the bargaining power of the workers and lowers the wage rate, particularly for those in the industries with excess labor supply. Further, high level of unemployment can lead to underemployment in the economy. So, underemployment occurs when the individuals are working in jobs that are below their skill level or the part-time jobs, when they are desired that they should work in a full-time employment. So, this can lead to reduced income and job satisfaction of the workers. Further, high level of unemployment may create some kind of skill erosion. A prolonged unemployment can lead to the erosion of skills and the work experience for the individuals who are out of work for a long period of time. So, this can make it more difficult for the unemployed workers to re-enter into the labor market or the transition to the new career. So, it may lead to a cycle of unemployment and underemployment in the economy. Further, the unemployment can increase the skill mismatch. High level of unemployment can amplify the skill mismatch within the labor market, where there is a disconnect between the skills and the employers and it needed to be improved. But unemployment will create certain space that where the skill mismatch will increase. So, this kind of results will increase the structural unemployment in the economy, where the individuals may struggle to find unemployment in the industries or occupations where the high demand for certain skills are required. Further, it may distort the labor market. It will create some kind of scarce in the labor market. So, the prolonged period of unemployment, particularly for young or inexperienced workers, can lead to long term negative effects on their career prospects and also on their earning potentials. So, this phenomena known as labor market scarring, and that can result in and it can damage to the individual's employability and economic well-being. Further, unemployment will reduce labor force participation. High level of unemployment can discourage some individuals from actively seeking works, leading to a decline in the labor force participation rate. So, this can result in reducing the labor force, and it will have serious long term implications on economic growth and productivity. Further, it will increase the job insecurity. Unemployment can lead to increased job insecurity and anxiety among the workers, even those who are currently employed. So, the concern about the potential layoff or the difficulties finding a new job can create a sense of instability within the labor market. So, addressing the labor market consequences of unemployment requires a comprehensive policy which aims at promoting jobs, creating jobs, and investing in education and training to enhance the workforce skill, and providing support like unemployment insurance to the unemployed individuals, which will facilitate their re-entry into the labor market. Further, efforts has to be made to address the structural barriers to employment and reduce the skill mismatch, which will improve the labor market outcomes for the workers as well as for the employers. If we could summarize the discussion, we can say that if in a well functioning competitive economy experiences frictional unemployment, because some workers will unavoidably be in between jobs. So, the structural unemployment arises when there is an imbalance between the supply of workers and the demand for workers. However, the steady state rate of unemployment depends on the transition of the probabilities among the employment and unemployment and the non-market sectors. So, in our next lecture, we will discuss about the job search behavior of the individual workers. We will discuss about the wage offer distribution, which talks about the frequency distribution of the potential job offers. We will discuss about the asking wage rate of the workers. Asking wage rate is nothing but the threshold wage that determines if unemployed workers accept or rejects the incoming job offers. Further, we will also discuss about the impact of unemployment insurance on the duration of unemployment. Thank you.